In the veiled mists of the north, where ice and fire shape both land and legend, a song was born. A song so ancient it whispered across the centuries, into the ears of a young Oxford scholar, and from there, into the beating heart of Middle-earth. I am Aurora, your guide on our journey into the soul of the Kalevala, the Finnish epic that breathed life into Tolkien's immortal myth. Far to the north, where snow thickens like silence and the stars feel closer than the earth, lies a land carved not by time, but by tale. A place where ancient bards once sang the world into being, where rivers carried memory, and forests whispered forgotten truths to those who dared to listen. From this frozen cradle rose the Kalevala, Finland's national epic, but more than that, a sacred code of song, soul, and survival. And from the pages of this mythic world, something stirred. It journeyed into the heart of a quiet Oxford scholar, J.R.R. Tolkien, who would carry it across worlds and weave it into the very fabric of Middle-earth. This is not a story of imitation, but of myth reborn. This is the hidden heartbeat of the Lord of the Rings. This is the legacy of the Kalevala. Long before ink dried on paper or alphabets etched meaning into stone, human history lived in rhythm. In Finland, where the winters bite and light is fleeting, the people preserved their heritage not with swords or kings, but with song. These were the runo songs, ancient poetic verses carried orally for centuries by rune singers known as tietäjät, wise ones, keepers of lore. Their memories were libraries, their voices, sacred vessels. And for generations they sang of gods and giants, sorcery and sorrow, forging what would one day become the Kalevala. The epic itself is a tapestry of creation myths, heroic sagas, and cosmic riddles. Collected in the 19th century by Elias Lönnrot, who traveled on foot through Finnish villages to transcribe the chants of aging bards. But even Lönnrot knew this was no mere folklore. It was the echo of a worldview untouched by Roman conquest or Christian kingship. Raw, animistic, northern, ancient, and in its verses, something stirred the imagination of a young Englishman thousands of miles away. J.R.R. Tolkien was a man obsessed with roots, not only of trees, but of words, myths, and meanings. As a student at Oxford, he encountered the Kalevala through a Finnish grammar book. Most would have stopped there, but Tolkien fell in love. He described the Finnish language as like discovering a wine cellar filled with bottles of an amazing wine of a kind and flavor never tasted before. He began to teach himself Finnish, not for travel, but for reverence. What captured him most was the figure of Vainamoinen, a primordial wizard born before the sun and moon, whose power lay not in weapons but in words. He is a singer who duels with poems, a creator whose voice shapes the world. Wise, aloof, eternal. And in Tolkien's world, Vainamoinen would reincarnate. He would wear a wide-brimmed hat, wield a staff, smoke a pipe, and bear the name Gandalf. But Gandalf is no mere wizard. Like Vainamoinen, he is a guide, a liminal figure walking between the mundane and the mythic. One born not to rule but to remind, to guard, to stir courage in hearts before battles begin. Within the Kalevala lives Ilmarinen, the celestial blacksmith, who forges not weapons, but the sampo. This mythical artifact is both symbol and enigma. It grinds grain, salt, and gold. It brings prosperity and peace, but no one can fully explain what it is. The sampo is stolen, pursued, shattered. Its fragments are scattered across the sea, and yet its influence never dies. To Tolkien, this was mythic gold. He transfigured it into the Silmarils, jewels forged by Fëanor, burning with captured light of the two trees. He echoed it in the One Ring, a creation of immense power, capable of binding kingdoms and destroying them. Both are objects of immense beauty and terrible consequence. Both blur the lines between blessing and curse. Both are forged by mortal hands, but touch the fate of gods. Ilmarinen's forge still burns, in the fires of Mount Doom. Tolkien often said his stories existed to give his languages a world. To him, language was not accessory, it was the origin of myth. When he discovered Finnish, he didn't just borrow sounds, he reshaped imagination. He used its phonetics, syntax, and soul to build Quenya, the ancient Elvish tongue, high, noble, and musical. The lilt of Finnish breathes through the lament of Galadriel, the hymns of Rivendell, and the oaths of the Eldar. Even the idea that language itself contains memory, an ancient wisdom passed from one age to the next, is a deeply Finnish notion. In both the Kalevala and Tolkien's Legendarium, names have power. Words are weapons, songs are spells, and the act of speaking is sacred creation. The Kalevala is no tale of triumph. Its beauty is shadowed with heartbreak, sacrifice, and silence. Consider Aino, a maiden promised to Vainamoinen, who rejects her fate and vanishes into the sea. Or Kullervo, a child of violence and vengeance born under a curse, whose life ends in bitter tragedy. These are not tales with neat endings. They are raw, unresolved, haunting. Tolkien, too, crafted tragedies that pierce the grandeur of his epics. Beren and Luthien love across death. Turin Turambar falls under the weight of fate and folly. Feanor creates beauty that burns the world. The Kalevala taught Tolkien that sorrow has mythic dignity, that sometimes the most human stories are the ones where we fall. Tolkien never plagiarized the Kalevala. He transmuted it. He took its themes, forms, and rhythms and filtered them through his own lore. He once attempted a full adaptation, the story of Kullervo, a dark, unfinished work that bears the DNA of what would become the Children of Húrin. Its tone is grim, its tragedy as total. And yet, from that shadowed place, Tolkien's own mythos would blossom. The Kalevala taught him how to build a legendarium that felt old even when newly written. It gave him the courage to treat fantasy not as escape, but as revelation. From Finland's frozen past, he drew the warmth of myth and lit a fire that would burn across the world. Today, the Kalevala is often forgotten outside its homeland. Yet its legacy is hidden in plain sight, in every battle beneath Mount Doom, every Elvish lullaby, every tale where wisdom outshines war. It is a reminder that the deepest stories are not always loud, that in the quiet corners of the world, myth endures, that even in snowbound silence, a song can survive and reshape the world. So when you read The Lord of the Rings, listen beyond the words. In the spaces between, the Bard of the North is still singing.